Today we are finally lowering Meghan's Legacy. So it's going to be kind of like a how-to video on how to lower your car. There's a couple different ways you can do it. We're going with the lowering spring route. You know, it kind of depends on your application, but a lot of times you can get coilovers for really cheap. With this case, we got these Manzo springs. So these were blue, but the previous owner of these painted them because he didn't like the blue. But we got these for really cheap. So these are for an 02 to 05 WRX, which is perfect for our application because she actually has 02 WRX struts and springs in here already, which work on these first gens if you have you change the top hat in the rear. That's all we had to do is swap the top hat for the Legacy top hat in the rear, and you can run WRX stuff. So this is all the parts you're really going to need. You need these. Obviously need the springs, and you need a spring compressor kit, and preferably some air tools to to work the spring compressor, so it's not so difficult to collapse the spring. So we already got sort of started. We got the car up on jack stands. We got to get all the wheels off, and on these sedans, you got to take the back seats out so you can get to the strut tops in the rear because they're back in here. So we just kind of skipped all that boring stuff. So if you got one of these sedans, just start with that. Pull your seats out and get your car up off the ground. Next step's going to be, we'll probably work on the front first, but all we got to do is take out these big strut bolts right here. The top one's the camber adjustment. So we're probably going to need to get an alignment after this, but for now we'll just kind of eyeball the camber and see how it looks. But we take those two big bolts out, I think they're 19s, and then some 12 mils on the top. Then we'll pull the whole thing off, and then we can get started on actually getting the springs off. Okay, so I think I got these set up right. This one's going to go on here on between 3 of the coils, and this one's just going to go on 2 because there's not really any room on the other side to move any. So now we can just tighten these bolts up at the top, and that'll crush the spring down, and we can take that nut off on the top with the impact gun.
Socket stuck.
Ta-da! Now we got to take this off very carefully and compress the new one to go on. You can see that's all it really is. Make sure you don't lose any of the stuff or the order they go in. And it should be good. These are our stock springs versus our lowering springs, so you can tell it's going to lower it quite a bit. I'm expecting to at least get 2 inches of drop. So should be pretty low. I'm pretty excited. So now we got to compress this one and put it on the strut. Once we just get one of the rears out, it's a little bit more tricky. You just take the 2 bolts off right here, just like that one. And then up in there, there's those 3 12 mils right there. Then you can just kind of pull it out through the top. We just kind of threw these back in, so you just kind of get it to sit right and put the top back on with the spring compressor on it. It helps a lot to get that on there. And then we're just setting the camber to all the way negative until we can get in alignment, because the camber alignment is going to be way off once we set it back down. The camber is going to be super negative, so we'll probably get in alignment later on, but I think it's probably a good thing to run a little bit of negative camber on here. So next we're gonna start taking this one off. Actually, it'd probably be nice to have both struts off first so we can have a reference to where the top hat kind of sits. So let's get that other one off, then we'll start on those springs. So got the passenger side off, so same thing. We're gonna set up our spring compressors on here on both sides. One will go onto 3, one on 2. Crush it down, and then we'll take that nut off the top. But you want to make sure you line up the top hat in the same direction as the top of the strut, or where it bolts onto the spindle, because it actually kind of sits offset. So otherwise your spring won't sit right on the thing and it won't clamp right, and you got to take it off and do it again. So that's why we're doing one at a time, so we can kind of line it up just right. We're back together. The top of this strut stripped out, so it took us a while to figure out, but we're just throwing the wheels back on and let's see how low it is. We just lowered it down. The front's sitting really nice, but the rear is like not really sitting all the way down. So I think we're gonna drive it around a little bit and see if it kind of settles more or something. Because it should be about the same front and rear, because this is one full set of matching everything. So we'll see. The other way. Put the seats back in. This should add some weight to the back, so it actually will sit a little bit lower. But just those 12 mil bolts right there, and some hooks on the back. We got the seats back in, so it sits a little bit nicer now. I think that's gonna do it. So if you guys have any questions, if we didn't cover anything, just leave it in the comments, and see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.